Here's the Excel workbook that we've set up for the exercise. You remember that we wanted to calculate the present value of $100 to be paid 5 years from now when discounted at a nominal rate of 5% that is compounded semi-annually. So here in cell B4, we'll enter the future value, which is 100. And we're going to be discounting at an annual interest rate of 5%. So we'll enter that as 0.05. Over a 5-year period with compounding twice per year. To find the answer, we need to use our present value formula, but taking into account discounting. So we're going to take the future value of 100, so we write equals 100, and we're going to divide it by the discount factor, or the discounting factor, taking into account the 5% rate per year with discounting over a 5-year period and semi-annual compounding. So we divide by 1 plus the rate per period, which is the 5% annual rate, but paid in 2 equal installments. So we divide by 2. And we're going to raise that whole factor to a power equal to the number of periods over which we're compounding, which in this case is 5 years times 2 periods per year. Putting all that together gives a present value of 78.12. If you get confused during any of the exercises, you can always check the Solutions tab for guidance about how to work out the answer. Okay, now that we have the answer, let's go back to the presentation.
We'll now have a further look at an example on a rights issue. So if you remember, the learning outcome statement actually has quite a few calculations in this area. So given a scenario on a rights issue, you would need to calculate the TERP, the theoretical X rights price, okay, the nil paid value, okay, so we're going to calculate nil paid value as well, and the discount to the TERP, the discount to the theoretical X rights price. We're going to do exactly that so that you're able to again play around with this sheet, put different numbers in, use your own examples and see what effect it actually has. It also allows you to plug in that formula to just reinforce you knowing how that formula works. Okay, you can use the Excel formula. Okay, so remember, to calculate the theoretical X rights price, which is needed for the other two, you would need to be given information on 3 things. Okay, what is the actual rights issue? Is it a 1-for-1 rights issue? Is it a 1-for-3, 1-for-4? Okay, so how many shares do you require to actually get 1 right? So that's what we're first asking. So if it's a 1-for-5 rights issue, you would need 5 shares to be given 1 right. Okay, yep, the example we'll do in a moment will be a 1-for-4 rights issue. Okay, you need the pre-rights share price. Okay, we know here that the current share price in our example is going to be £60. So that was the price before the rights issue was actually declared. And then the subscription price is the discounted price. You'll remember that the rights issue is awarded at a discounted price. That makes it looks a bit more attractive for the shareholder. And in the example, we're going to see that's going to be at £40. Okay, and with that, we can then calculate from the 3 questions the theoretical X rights price, the nil paid price, and the discount to the TERP. Okay, let's plug some numbers in. Okay, so if you want to have a go at this, just pause, have a go, compare the solutions to the next page, or listen to my recording, and we will put through the solutions. Okay. Shares required for the rights issue, well, we just want that in whole numbers, so you need 4 shares to be given 1 right. So we just put the number 4 in. The pre-rights price in this example is £60 because Drive Me PLC conducted a 1-for-4 rights issue at a subscription of £40, but the current share price is £60. That's the pre-rights, £60. Okay, and the subscription price we said is the discounted price. In this case, that's £40. Okay. Now we need a formula to calculate the theoretical X rights price. Before putting the formula, let me explain how it's done, and then I'll show you how to do that in Excel. Okay. So if you have 4 shares, those are valued at £60 each. 4 times 60 is 240. Okay. You can buy 1 share at £40. So if you had a holding of £240, you can add another share at £40. 240 plus 40 is £280. So you now have a holding of £280 if you take this right up, but you now have 5 shares. So 280 divided by 5 is the exact equation we want. But let's put that in Excel. So what did we do? We said we own, so I do equals for a formula, open brackets, because it's going to be quite a bit of brackets here, 4 times the 60, okay, because we hold 4 shares at 60, yeah, and I add 1 at 40. And mathematically, you always do the multiplication before the addition, so you don't need any further brackets around that. Okay, so we had 4 shares times 60, 240, plus 40, which is the new share we're buying at a discounted price. Close the brackets there, and we need to divide this by the number of shares we have in total. Okay, so how do we know how many shares we have? Well, we were given a rights issue at 4, so we needed 4 shares originally, and we're going to add 1 to that number there. Okay, and if I close that bracket, I hit enter, I should get a theoretical X rights price of £56. It should always be less than the pre-rights price, because the idea is you're buying one at a discounted price, and that's diluting the holding as well. So just be familiar, as a sanity check, that number should be less because the subscription price is less than the pre-rights price. The nil paid price, you may remember, is the difference between the TERP and the subscription price. So in this case, the difference between what we just calculated as £56 minus the subscription price, £16. What does that represent? That represents the value of that discount to a shareholder. If you were to sell this right to someone, you should get ballpark 16. There's always a bid offer around these sorts of things, so you might not get the full 16 because someone else might want a little bit of benefit. Okay, if you sell this right to someone else. But ballpark, or theoretically, yeah, what you should get for it is 16, and that is actually called the nil paid value, or the nil paid price. To calculate the discount to the TERP, that's a percentage amount, we have to solve for what discount did we get, so the same sort of thing, from the TERP, how much discount did we get? So we would open brackets and say that's the TERP minus the subscription price. Effectively, it's the nil paid value. Okay, and then to put that in percentage terms, that £16 discount, we base that on a common denominator of the TERP to see how much benefit did we get in percentage terms. So divide that by B7, which is the TERP we calculated, and you should get, it's already pre-formatted in percentage, that's 28.6%. Remember, if you wanted to change formatting, just go to the cell, Control 1. I've got custom formatting, but you could do it in percentage to 1 decimal point, exactly the same thing, or you could play with that as well. Okay, so we have now solved for TERP, theoretical X rights price, the nil paid price, and the percentage discount to the TERP, just to get a feel for how attractive it is. Okay, that was the syllabus requirement. The solution is on the next tab. I want to show you a little bit extra, just for those that are enjoying these Excel exercises, just so you can practice your Excel. Of course, not examinable, this part here, but just so it can help you in your workplace, it can help you in different tasks that you're doing. There's a really cool Excel function which allows you to basically solve for a number which actually isn't where you've put your formula. Solve for a number given other information. I'll give an example, the best way. So let's say there was a company who wanted to make sure that the TERP, the theoretical X rights price, didn't end up going below £58 in the same example. Okay, So we solved for that theoretical X rights price. To do a trial and error to see when would that number come to 56 would take quite a while. Yeah, it's an iterative process. So what the company obviously, the one thing they get to determine is the subscription price. They can figure out how much discount they want to offer. They want to do a 1 for 4. They also determine that. So they want to do a 1 for 4 rights issue. They know the pre-rights price in the market is £60, but they're just trying to sort of scratch their head and think, what subscription price should we offer this for so that our TERP does not go below £58? The way to do that is you click on the TERP cell where the formula is for the 56, so in B7. You go to your data menu in Excel. Depends what version of Excel you have, but you'd have to look for this if you have a different version. Data, and then go to what if analysis, okay, which should be right there, what if analysis. And the second option there is goal seek. So you'll see that it opens up a little window there which says goal seek. Set cell B7, that's the one we want to set, B7, which is where the value for the TERP is. And we want to set it to a value of 58 because the company doesn't want the price to go below 58. And we want to do that by changing one cell. Okay, we want to change the subscription price. So Excel is basically going to run the iterative process, keep changing that subscription price until we get to a TERP of 58, and it will tell us what that number is. So I'm going to hit enter, okay, and it's going to say you wanted a target value of 58. You might be able to see there it says the subscription price comes out at 50. Yeah, the subscription price, if you set a subscription price of 50, not 40 like the company did, if they set it at a discounted value of 50, then we would end up with a TERP of 58. Okay, so you can see all the solution there. Okay, I'm just going to hit OK. Yeah, and that's the data we had. I'm actually now going to take this to the previous example because this was just to show you a little function. So I'm just going to hit undo, which will bring us back to our previous example where the subscription price was 40 and the TERP ended up at 56. If you go to the next tab, press Control page down, and you can see here that the Solutions tab is exactly the same as what we actually calculated.